Hey again, second grade. This is Miss Salar. So every day I've been reading a new chapter of Dolphins at Daybreak, and so today it's time for chapter 3. Now, before we get into chapter 3, let's go over some of the vocabulary words and discussion questions that I left you with at the end of chapter 2. So the vocabulary word of yesterday was coral reef, and I talked about how a coral reef was an underwater rock made up of skeletons of fish and ocean animals. So it's very similar to like a fossil that we've talked about, how a fossil, the process of fossilization happens. The dirt piles on top of the fossil and it fossilizes underneath all of that rock and earth and sediment. So very similar process. And then our discussion question was compare and contrast Jack and Annie. How are they similar and how are they different? So hopefully you wrote that down in your notebook or you talked to someone at your house about the answer to that discussion question. So I'm just going to answer it first. So Jack and Annie are pretty different. So if I'm trying to think about comparing and contrasting them, I'm going to think, well, Annie is super outgoing and super willing to take on new adventures, and Jack is a little bit more timid, right? So they're different in the way that they approach problems. Annie's like, let's go quickly, and Jack's like, hold on. Let me evaluate the situation first, and then I'll go in and figure out what's going on. So Jack and Annie are pretty different in the book. So let's go ahead and read chapter 3 of Dolphins at Daybreak. Chapter 3, mini sub. So don't forget, Jack and Annie are inside of the mini submarine and they are going into the water. You have really done it now, Annie, said Jack. Sorry, but look out the window. Annie said, look. Forget it. We have to figure this out. Jack stared at the computer. He saw a row of pictures at the top of the screen. What did you do? He asked. I just pressed the on button, said Annie. The screen lit up and I pressed the starfish. That must command the boat to go underwater, said Jack. Yeah, and then the map came on, said Annie. Okay. The map shows the reef, said Jack. Look, there's the mini sub in the map. It's moving away from the reef. It's like a video game, said Annie. I bet I know what to do. Annie pressed a key with an arrow pointing right. The mini sub on the screen moved to the right. The real mini sub also moved to the right. Great, said Jack with relief. You pressed the arrows to steer the mini sub. So now we could go back. So these are what the pictures look like in the mini sub. What Annie pressed. Oh no, not right away, said Annie. It's so beautiful down here. We have to get back to the reef, said Jack. His eyes were still glued to the computer screen. What if the owners find it gone? Look out the window, said Annie, just for one teeny second. Jack sighed. He pushed his glasses into place and looked up. Oh man, he said softly. Outside the glass was a strange world of bright moving color. It looked like another planet. The mini sub was moving past red, yellow, and blue coral, just like little coral mountains, valleys, and caves, past fishes of every color and size. Can't we just stay a little while? The answer to Morgan's riddle might be here, said Annie. Jack nodded slowly. She might be right, he thought. Besides, when would they ever get to visit a place like this again? And that is the end of chapter 4. So here's what I want us to think about. What do we think they might encounter or see when they're underwater? What are some things that might be beautiful and awesome? And what are some things that might be dangerous that they might encounter? Think about that and write down the answer in your notebook. Have a good day. Bye.